Hello YouTube, today we're going to discuss lifting rotations or rotating lifts, whatever you want to call it. And this is the practice of modifying your program by the lifts within itself and not the program in its entirety. It is something that should always be scheduled. There are some people who don't schedule it, they just do it by feel. But it's a valuable practice, in my opinion. That being said, it's not a recent discovery at all. People have been rotating lifts for as long as I can remember, but there are certain trends of techniques, methods, whatever you want to call it, that become popular on YouTube Fitness and sort of re-emerge. And I get the sense that this one is going to be a big one in the coming years. And so I want to sort of dismiss the doubts and uncertainties surrounding the practice, give my take on it, and help people not fall into the trap of the new trend. Because whenever something becomes popular again, it becomes bastardized, either for commercial gains or just because people don't have a solid grasp on it. So, and there are people who have been promoting rotating lifts for a long time, and I agree with that. Some of them know what they're doing. I'm not saying everyone doesn't know. I'm just saying that as far as bodybuilding goes, the topic hasn't really been covered. Or rather, it has, but in vague terms. I'm going to explain why, but bodybuilding has always implemented rotating lifts. We just never called it that. The reason why is because there is a stark belief that bodybuilders don't need to abide by the rules of specificity. I'm going to make videos about it because I don't think it's true. Thinking that a bodybuilder can go into the gym and on his program it's going to be written Monday chest and that's it, that's all we need as bodybuilders, I think it's very naive and is disrespectful towards bodybuilding. It's taking bodybuilders for idiots or cavemen. Programming is just as integral to bodybuilding as other sports, and doing body part splits is and should be the most advanced application of programming. It's not just training one body part, it's much more technical than that. And so, the issue that I have with this rotating lift thing is that a lot of people think it's a way to avoid having to program, but in reality, the best way to rotate lifts is to integrate the rotation in your program. So that's the first thing. It cannot and shouldn't be something that is done on a whim. You don't just rotate lift. You don't show up on Monday and think, oh, I don't want to do bench today. Let me do weighted push-ups. It doesn't work like that, because if your program is written properly and it is something that is going to promote muscle hypertrophy, you're going to have to respect the program, what is written, and a certain amount of specificity. So that's one thing. Second thing is, rotation should never be triggered by failure. It's another big one that I see a ton. It's much more prevalent in the strength building world, but it has started to transpire for physique purposes. And to me, this is a bad application of the system. You don't stop doing a lift because you stall on it. Why? Because you are running away from failure. And you're also not progressing, in my opinion, on that lift. You're just running away from it, as I just said. If you do a bench variation and you stall on it, moving to a different one and then making progress and proclaiming, oh, look, I'm making gains. No, you are picking up a new lift that you're starting up at a lower weight. So of course you're going to gain some weight on it. That makes total sense. If I store my back squat and I start doing Zercher squats with 135, am I making gains? If I get my Zercher from 135 to 350, did I make gains? The answer is no. I didn't make any gains. I regressed from one method to the other, because let's say I was repping 350 on the back squat. Now I'm doing Zercher with 135. I'm losing a ton of tonnage and intensity, and that is going to be a massive discrepancy that is going to only be finally, in a sense, worth it once my Zerchers get to the same level of weight as my back squat. So you've spent all that time building up a lift that is going to result in what is called junk volume. This is why if you rotate lifts, you have to match the weight. There are certain exceptions, meaning that if you start a lift that is highly technical, maybe with a specialty bar, then you should be taking it easy. But if that's the case, you cannot say that you rotated the lift. You added another lift to your arsenal. Meaning that in my example, if you do that, you should not have given up on back squats. You should have kept doing back squats, and then when the other squats are high enough, they can replace it, but not before. This doesn't work like that. This is letting failure dictate your program. It's not a good thing. So now that I said that you shouldn't do it like this, how should you do it? Well, in my opinion, the rotation should be written in stone, meaning that you should know, okay, in 6 weeks, I'm gonna do that rotation. But again, the number of weeks, months, years you wait until the rotation happens cannot be arbitrary. You need to know why you're doing that. And if you're just saying 6 weeks because it sounds good or because someone else is doing 6 weeks blocks, then it's not smart programming. And in my opinion, the issue too with giving yourself a deadline is that maybe the 6 weeks come, but you're still making excellent gains on that lift, and you don't want to switch it out because you could milk more gains from it. This is the flip side of what I just said about rotating lifts for failure. Giving yourself a certain deadline is also going to result in you switching lifts again and again by the time your body starts really making progress on it. So, what is the option? In my opinion, the option is implementing smaller rotations without taking the lift completely out of the program. Meaning what? I'm going to give the example of my program. I have 8 days in my body part splits. I don't do the full day on the 8 days. Why? Because I have lifting rotations within the day. But the lifts never go out. They're always in the program. I choose on that day, depending on what the week looks like, which lift I'm gonna do. And because they are comprised within an 8-day program, the chances of me not doing the lift every 10 to 12 days is extremely small. If there is a specific lift you do that you only do once every 15 days or every month, this is a waste of time because now you're basically having to go through relearning the movement, meaning that you're not really reaching muscular fatigue. You are basically pushing your body into creating more neural pathways to be very good at the lift, but it's not going to result in more muscle fiber damage, which is what we want for hypertrophy. So how do we avoid that? Well, I just said it at the very start of the video. It's that principle of specificity that too many bodybuilders don't take into account. If you stay specific within your rotations, then having that circle or those large gaps in between the practice of the lift won't matter as much, because the difference between a close grip bench and a regular grip bench is minimal. The difference between a weighted dip and a close grip bench is maximal. So you want to keep your rotations within close variations of the lift, and if there is another variance of that body part you want to work, so bench and dip, then those shouldn't be in the same rotation. They shouldn't exist in the same realm because they are not specific enough, in my opinion. You need to have them be completely separated. So you can rotate weighted dips with something that would be, for example, a post dip. That is much better. And it's also going to result in something that is very important for programming that I'm going to make videos about, which is don't be too greedy when you program. A ton of people who do rotating lifts end up with that system not because they realized it was a good way to avoid the biological law of accommodation, but rather because they want to do everything. They want to do 45 lifts, they want to have too much lift variety or exercise selection in their program, and it results in this mess, this massive catalog of lifts that go in the program, go out the program, or even worse, they just pick on the day. You can't, as I said before, you cannot go in the gym, read tricep for Wednesday and decide on that day which exercise is going to work. You can have a list of exercises under triceps that you're going to pick from, because this is this is a randomization of your training program. Programs should include freedom, but not that much. This is pushing it. And to end, and this is a topic that I'm going to develop in another video because it deserves it, but the biological law of accommodation basically stipulates that at some point, if you practice a lift a lot, you get used to it and progress stores. I have my reserve on that notion, because I think most people we discuss it don't realize that if you modify volume and intensity on that lift, then you're bypassing the laws of accommodation already. You don't have to change the lift, or you can do a variation. You can do a superset with the lift to make it more taxing on the muscular system. There are multiple ways of avoiding that law of accommodation that doesn't involve rotating lifts. So again, if your only way to deal with that specific biological limitation or challenge is to stop doing the lift and do something else, then you're letting failure define your training, and this is something you want to avoid at all costs. This video is way too long, but I love that topic. I will make more videos about it. Let me know in the comments what you think. Have a good day.